share the newer researches and findings, I would like to invite a very senior doctor, Dr. Jayanto Panda from Odisha. He is an endocrinologist and professor ex-HOD of Postgraduate Department of Medicine of SCB Medical College, Cuttack. I invite you, sir, on stage to speak on this particular topic. And to chair this particular session, I would like to invite Dr. Professor Nilanjan Sengupta, endocrinologist, HOD, NRS Medical College, and along with him, Dr. BP Pandey, very senior cardiologist and a very important part of HDS.
Change from here. Timer. In the slides.
Well, thank you. So, without wasting further time, Dr. Jayant Panda has already been introduced. He is very much well known to not only we people from West Bengal, but the entire India as a very energetic clinician with interest in the field of diabetology, and he's also the Vice Dean of ICP. So, over to Dr. Panda to deliberate on anti-diabetic medication and cardiovascular disease, an ever controversial topic. And so I think Dr. Panda will do justice to this very controversial topic. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Nilanjan. Thank you, Dr. Pandey. And I see so many known faces in the house, and it's a pleasure always coming to Calcutta. This is my second home, I tell, because whenever I get a opportunity, I come, and especially the Howrah Town Diabetes Study Society has been doing very organized conferences for last few years. I have been invited, and it's the first time I had the opportunity of attending. I'm very happy. I congratulate the whole team for good shines, good ambience, good delivery, good speakers. Give a big hand to the HDS, and I wish the HDS a long life. And it's always a pleasure to see people in pink, and the fiesta of science is on. And here I'll put few facts which you have been listening from Dr. Dhiman already. The cardiovascular scenario and antidiabetic medications. So you know, atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease in patients of diabetes is 1 in 3 patients with type 2 diabetes worldwide. That comes around 1/3 or more than that people are having cardiovascular comorbidity. This is the CAPTURE study published in the EASD 20. And the coronary artery disease is the measured CVD burden in diabetes, where 1 in 6 patients with diabetes and 2 in 3 patients with congestive heart failure and 1 in 3 patients in CKD are the victims. And the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and the type 2 diabetes risks arise early from common soil, the predisposing factors that you know about the obesity, about the smoking, about the family history of coronary artery disease, diabetes, and the CV deaths account for 2/3 of all deaths in diabetes. So atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease causing 2/5 of all deaths in diabetic, which all of us know that the single killer in diabetes with highest number is atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. And you will see the risks, the dyslipidemia, the hypercoagulation, platelet activation, metabolic dysfunction, and environment pollutants are the primary factors, and factors which modulate this are physical inactivity, poor diet, smoking, and obesity. So finally, the type 2 diabetes along with CVD sets in, which causes the endothelial dysfunction, arterial stiffness, inflammation, and oxidative stress. So the cardiovascular risk categories, if we'll see by European Society of Cardiology, You have very high risk and moderate risk. If the patient with diabetes and established CVD, the other target organ damage, 3 or more major risk factors in the early onset of type 1 diabetes with more than 20 years duration, they come under very high risk. The patients with diabetes duration of 10 years without target organ damage plus any other additional risk factor are high risk. The young patients, the diabetic less than 35 years, type 2 less than 50 years, and duration less than 10 years without other risk factor come under moderate risk. This is what you all know recently, the 22 ICMR INDIA data, the poor glycemic control seen across the urban and rural India. So almost 64% of Indian type 2 diabetic patients do not attain the A1C target of less than 7%. So you can know here that almost 2/3 of the patient are beyond control and we are not achieving target in them, and the impression that the people in the urban area only affected is wrong, and people, though not at par, the people at the rural area are also affected. And the realities with the traditional management regime is that diagnosis of type 2 diabetes, 50% of patients already have complications, 50% of beta cell function has already been lost. And the current management, 2/3 of the patients do not achieve A1C target, majority require polypharmacy to meet glycemic goals over time, which all of you will agree to me. So the risk of complications increase with A1C, that we know. Individuals with high baseline values require particularly urgent and intensive treatment. Monotherapy is often insufficient in these individuals and combination therapy should be initiated earlier. We have presentation on combination therapy which is following, but before that, the overview of the ADA and ESD recommendations which we follow over the last decade for stepwise therapy for patients with type 2 diabetes, which all of you know the step 1 with metformin, step 2 the addition of 1 or 2 drug, then step 3 the further addition, and step 4 going to the insulin and the injectables. They provide the shared decision making around the initial combination therapy in new onset cases, and the key changes you will see are the more evidence, the use of new drugs like the glutazones, the DPP-4 inhibitors and GLP-1 agonist, and the availability of SGLT2 inhibitors, and taking the drugs with cardiovascular risk modification to the front line, namely the GLP-1 agonist and SGLT2 inhibitors. So need for a combinational approach is to address the multiple pathophysiological mechanism, the glycemic and non-glycemic benefits, reducing the occurrence of the hypoglycemia, the weight gain, and improving the compliance of the patient in need. So 26% reduction in the risk of time to secondary treatment failure following early combination therapy in the VERIFY study is known to all of you. The metformin monotherapy and the early combination therapy, the follow-up for 2 years, the time before the treatment intensification, initial treatment failure and secondary treatment failure shows 26% reduction in the risk of time to secondary treatment failure followed by early combination therapy. So if you are not killing time, if you are going ahead with drugs which have synergistic effect, like we do exercise, we go for metformin, we go for gliptin, we go for SGLT2 inhibitor. Besides, we can start the exercise, metformin, the gliptins, the SGLT2 inhibitors, the GLP-1 agonists together and see the benefit in our patients. So ADA 23 guidelines suggest there should be considered in patients presenting with A1C level 1.52% above the target. If suppose you get somebody with 9%, 8.5%, the incorporation of the high glycemic efficacy therapies or therapies for the CV renal risk reduction and allow for weaning of current regimen, particularly of agents that may increase the risk of hypoglycemia. Suppose we have started with a sulfonylurea, the patient is fragile, elderly, with a CKD, the more chances of hypoglycemia, we can switch over to GLP-1 or SGLT2 inhibitor with a good cardiovascular prevention and good prevention of hypoglycemia as well. So the SGLT2 inhibitors and DPP-4 inhibitor combinations are synergistic and complementary effects, and you know about the renal protection and as well as the diabetic endothelial protection. There is decrease in the blood pressure, decrease in the weight, decrease in the A1C, and the DPP-4 inhibitor decreases the side effects or the intolerance of SGLT2 inhibitors as well. And the rationale comes very well with the efficacy, avoidance of the side effects, cost issues, and the patient preferences. So they have safer, rapid, and sustained glycemic control, improving both insulin resistances and beta cell function, helps reducing body weight and the blood pressure, reduce pill burden and overall cost effectiveness. To higher efficacy of this Empalina fixed drug combination over the monotherapies was seen, and up to 1.8 to 1.9% A1C reduction on more than 8.5% baseline A1C was seen. That is, drug-naive and the metformin background patients both were compared. And the early achievement of the goal and durability of the action, 8% baseline A1C, that they could reach the target A1C in a combination. So we have now adequate experience with the drugs, and if you think of protecting the cardiovascular system or protecting heart, if you have to think of the drugs after the metformin, the SGLT2 inhibitors, GLP-1 agonist, and here the combination therapy scores over the traditional combination of sulfonylurea, glucagon, or insulin therapy. So appropriate use of this combination depends on the glycemic factors, and with type 2 diabetes frequency or at risk of comorbidity, we have to consider the diabetes along with the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, the CKD, the heart failure, and we have to know that 60% of patients with heart failure and diabetes have CKD, and around 35 to 45% with heart failure have CKD, and 20 to 44% patients with diabetic have CKD. So here, the 12 to 40% of the patients with diabetes have heart failure, and 8.7% of the Indian adults, the population has the diabetes, and the 32% of the patients with diabetes have CAD. So there is so many overlap between these factors. So when we think of diabetes, not only the diabetes treatment will suffice, we have to think of the kidney, think of the heart, think of the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, and all associated comorbidity like weight, hypertension, and dyslipidemia. So the direct and indirect actions of the SGLT2 inhibitors likely to produce the cardiovascular, renal, and metabolic benefits. That's known to all of you. The decreased rash, the decreased sympathetic stimulation, oxidative stress, and inflammation by SGLT2 inhibitors, they, by different mechanisms, benefit our patients. And here, the anti-hyperglycemic medications are tabulated with the different properties, and you can see the measured adverse cardiac events, the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease and congestive heart failure, the CKD, the renal adjustment, the hypoglycemia risk, weight, NAFLD, the GI adverse symptoms, and other considerations of the patients. So here, if you will see, there are few drugs which score, and after the metformin, which has been the age-old drug to start with, the GLP-1 receptor agonist, if you will see the whole profile here, the GLP-1 receptor agonist and the SGLT2 inhibitors, the profile looks very comfortable. And here the dual therapy, the GLP and the SGLT2 inhibitors combination are also compared with that, and the DPP-4 inhibitors are taken as a safe alternative. So if we are starting early, starting strong with this combination of very benign DPP-4 inhibitors and effective SGLT2 inhibitors, there are chances of prevention of cardiovascular complications are very high. Here the renal outcomes of these combinations, which shows the cardiovascular benefits are similar when they are combined, and the benefit effects of the CV deaths and the hospitalization of the heart failure in these combinations, where the hazard ratio clearly favors the drugs, and the significant body weight, systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure reduction with this Empalina combination has been shown, and the appropriate use of SGLT2 inhibitors and DPP4 FDC based on the severe risk including the heart failure is shown. The timing of the key treatment milestones of the diabetic kidney disease over the past 40 years have been shown, where the different trials tell, starting from the UKPDS, the EMPA-REG, the CREDENCE, DAPA-CKD and the EMPA-KIDNEY, clearly they tell about the benefits related to the kidney and their outcome. And the landmark trials of the SGLT2 inhibitors in the kidney also relates to this. My purpose of showing this to you is the endothelial benefits are common to the renal and the cardiovascular complications, and both are mostly mediated by atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. So long-term renal safety profile of the linagliptin are very clear, and it was associated with a significant 14% reduction in albuminuria progression. And the renal benefit of SGLT2 inhibitors are similar when used alone or in combination with DPP4 inhibitor in diabetes. And if you see the KDIGO and the ADA consensus 22, the SGLT2 inhibitors, the empagliflozin, 10 milligram day, the initiation not recommended with EGFR less than 20, and the linagliptin is no dose adjustment required. The effect of Empalina on oxidative stress, the markers in the chronic kidney disease are taken, and starting from the renal oxidative stress to biomarkers, A1C, the conclusion was improved renal oxidative stress in the glycemic control. They play a key role in reducing the progression of diabetic nephropathy. So the appropriate use of this combination based on the CKD, based on the atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, and our own Indian study by Dr. Mohan et al. For the prevention and management of the people with diabetes with CVD risk, and the consensus recommendations come into picture. So the ADA standard of care, you will see, they are divided into the patients of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, the indicators of the high risk, heart failure, and the CKD. So it's not that conventionally we are going from exercise to the one drug, metformin, and then to 2 drug, 3 drug. Rather, we are targeting basing on the complications at diagnosis which are inevitable. And the 23 European Society of Cardiology guideline for management of CVD in the patient of diabetes very clearly shows the cardiovascular disease and the diabetes are very close associates, and the evaluation and the diagnosis and treatment should contain the consideration of all factors, and the drugs like GLP-1 receptor agonist, SGLT2 inhibitors, and the Findenon, which Dr. Dhiman was talking about, comes into picture. And here for the management, again to reduce the heart failure, the SGLT2 inhibitors are the class 1 drugs, and the GLP-1 receptor agonists, the Shita and Lina, the metformin and insulin glargine can be the combinations. And the treatment of the patients of diabetes with CKD, with Shita-based regimen or S inhibitor and ARB, the SGLT2 inhibitors, the BP control, and the Findenon come into picture. So treatment algorithm for selecting glucose-lowering drugs for the patient with diabetes and CKD. Here, the physical activity, nutrition, and weight loss. In second phase, we come to metformin and SGLT2 inhibitors. Then comes the GLP-1, the DPP, insulin, and then finally sulfonylurea glitajon or the alpha-glucosidase inhibitor if still you require a drug to intervene. This is what the KDIGO 22 clinical practice guideline tell you. So early start with the SGLT2 inhibitor for the cardiorenal benefit, the diabetes diagnosis, and you can go with the SGLT2 inhibitor, and then all complications like hypertension, albuminuria, obesity, uncontrolled glycemia can be tackled, and the progression can be controlled, and the deterioration can be checked. So hospitalization can be reduced and improving the quality of life. So the benefits are very evident from this combination. So finally, the poor glycemic control seen across the urban and the rural India, what we see in the ICMR in DIAB study, and the monotherapy of an insufficient in these individuals, the combination therapy should be initiated earlier. Unmet need in diabetic care for treatment that provide both glycemic and non-glycemic benefit is required, and beyond glycemic control, this combination of empagliflozin and linagliptin addresses the severe renal metabolic aspect of diabetes also, and this may be patient partnered to metformin, providing the meaningful glycemia control without increasing the risk of hypoglycemia and improving the metabolic profile of the patient. So to conclude, we know the cardiovascular complications are very prominent and most of our diabetic die of heart disease, not any other complications. And here, when we are discussing about the treatment, lifestyle is there for sure, but we have to think of metformin, we have to think of SGLT2 inhibitors and combination therapy like Lina-EMPA combination or further combination with the GLP-1 agonist or the glitazones, which have a modulating effect on atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, can be rewarding not only in blood glucose control but in the protection of the heart and kidney as well. I thank again for the opportunity given, and I thank the team HDS for the beautiful hospitality and the conference, and I'll be happy to take up questions if any. Thank you.
Jayanto,
Yeah, tell me.
excellent presentation as usual. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now that we have distinguished ASCVD patients from the other patients in the management of diabetes, what do you place the role of antiplatelet drugs in these patients?
Yeah, very pertinent. The latest guideline of ESC and as well as the different cardiological societies across the world have very clearly mentioned about the antiplatelet drugs, like 1, 2 or combinations, when to give and when to keep it reserved. And when the patient has a myocardial infarction or a old history of a coronary artery disease, the antiplatelet drug is a must to continue for lifelong. But people without that, only risk factor and without a event, maybe coronary artery disease or myocardial infarction, you can weigh them and stratify them risk-wise. If high risk, that can be started well before the event, or else a approach for the lifestyle and the blood glucose control can decrease their risk of the coronary event.
Where do you place pioglitazone in therapeutic armamentarium if there is no contraindication like heart failure or osteoporosis or edema or anemia? If we can give from early stage of diabetes, because it is highest insulin sensitizer, will reduce visceral fat, liver fat, muscle fat, and anti-atherosclerotic also.
Yeah.
So where do you place it?
A very pertinent question, sir. Actually, pioglitazone has come back after a lot many assault for the bladder cancer and the other complications. And in these patients, as you told, those who are not obese, those who don't have risk of osteoporosis or very frail elderly patients, we can add pioglitazone to the SGLT2 inhibitors, metformin, or even the GLP-1 agonist, provided the patient at present is not affording treatment of the combinations, because the cost of combination therapy with the existing SGLT2 inhibitors and gliptins have come down. Pioglitazone has been put as a third option after the combination of SGLT2 inhibitors and the gliptins. And if still you have obvious indications, like the patient doesn't have any risk factors and still not affording this combination, you can go for pioglitazone. It's a very welcome drug so far as the atherosclerotic cardiovascular drug is concerned, but good thing in India that we get better drugs which are more affordable here. So it's kept for the third step after the first and second.
Well, Dr. Jyotidev Mukhopadhyay, do you have a question to ask?
Yeah, Jyoti.
Microphone, please.
What should be our anti-diabetic drug in patients on dialysis and renal transplant patients?
A very important thing which everybody should know, that patients of CKD5 on hemodialysis or the post-transplant, you have to calculate the estimated GFR. And the GFR is, as per the GFR, you decide the drugs. Fortunately, SGLT2 inhibitors, we can go up to a very low GFR of 20, and even few cases, selective drugs are tolerated up to 15. But regarding the gliptins and the other drugs, I think insulin will be preferred in view of the comorbidity, and we should be very cautious when it starts falling in these patients, because there's a very thin line between the drug choice and the recommendation at the various segments. So in my opinion, you should comfortably go for insulin in these patients, and if patient is already on a drug like a SGLT2 inhibitor which is benefiting, improving of the GFR, you have to monitor the eGFR more frequently.
Yeah. So, thank you, Dr. Panda, for the excellent deliberation, and we close the session. It's our proud privilege to honor you, Nilanjan.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, thank you.
I would kindly stay back, sir, for the felicitation. Thank you, Speaker, sir, Dr. Joyanta Panda, and thank you, chairpersons, for chairing this session.